Okay, recognize difference makers. Dr. Linthicum.
Absolutely. Welcome everyone here. Would like to just, we started recognizing difference makers that have made a difference. It's not any, other than, as it said, those that have made a difference in our community, and folks can recognize, nominate folks who've made a difference, and they go above and beyond to serve our students, staff, and schools, and it's just basically a way for us to say thank you. Thank you for what you do. The culture of that's just what we do is great. Most difference makers, they don't want to be recognized. It's just who they are, and that's little by little as we raise the bar that we want everyone to see how they can make a difference without doing it for those reasons. So we just want to say thank you to those. Tonight we are proud to recognize, I think we have here for learning, Principal Bob James. I believe you're going to introduce the first one, so I won't steal your thunder, and I'll let you go ahead and introduce her.
Awesome. As Dr. Linthicum mentioned, we choose to recognize our difference makers every month, and I would echo Dr. Linthicum's sentiment. Our greatest difference makers tend to be folks that would rather not be recognized. They just want to do the work, and our difference maker that exemplifies learning this evening is exactly that type of person. She just does great things whether anyone's looking or not. So here's a little background about what brought us here tonight. Our naturalization ceremonies are probably one of the most meaningful and moving events that are held by our federal courts. And the 2018 Central Division ceremony offered the Western District of Missouri U.S. District Court with an opportunity to reach out to our community, which was awesome. So this year, the court, in collaboration with Jefferson City High School, held its annual ceremony at Miller Performing Arts Center at April 25th at 1 p.m. The event provided a hands-on experience with the citizenship process for students from Jefferson City High School's English Language Learners class. The students are taught by Miss Melanie Fraga, and they not only attended the ceremony, but participated by interviewing the new citizens and their families, and by serving as ambassadors to welcome the guests. They also assisted with seating and serving refreshments. The one of 102 actual new citizens were sworn in that day, and they were from over 46 countries that finalized the requirements for their American citizenships as they were administered the oath of allegiance, which was awesome. District Judge M. Douglas Harpool presided over the patriotic ceremony, which included a presentation of the flag by our students from our 2017 Fall Military Leadership class. They also led new citizens in the presentation of the flag, as well as the Pledge of Allegiance. And then our choir, or our chorale, sang the national anthem and did a rendition of God Bless America. Ms. Tanya Locke, the deputy clerk for the U.S. District Court, administered the oath. And then the Rock Island chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution assisted with the program and provided each of our new citizens with a small American flag. And then the reception was also hosted and catered by the Nichols Career Center and Jefferson City High School Culinary Arts Program, which is a great example, again, of what our kids can do. It was great. The Cole County Clerk's Office gave new citizens an opportunity on that day to register to vote, and the U.S. Post Office offered a passport to all of our new citizens. And to exemplify learning, our difference maker this month is Miss Melanie Fraga.
Congratulations. I think they just want a picture of all of us here.
I didn't get away just yet. I have two students here. My first student is Alvaro Aguero. He's from Nicaragua. He's been my student for 3 years. And he said he'd be mortified if I asked him to speak. He said, no way, please don't make me. In addition to being an English language teacher, another thing that I do is I'm the sponsor for the Green Team. And it wasn't a club, it was just something I wanted to do. We had recycling after 2 or 3 years had not been done. It was just piling up, and you know, we're a 4-level campus building and with Nichols, and there was just no recycling going on. So I just thought that was just next to criminal. So I just started with a couple of my students doing it. And then my son, who's graduated this year, he said, And then I ended up calling us the green team. And he said, Mom, that's not a club. I'm like, yes, we are. We're a club. We're the green team. He said, no, Mom, recycling is an activity. It is not a club. You can't call yourself one. Clubs do fun things. And so I had to start doing fun things. So we did. We got involved. And Lexi was my student last year. There was a need for a French teacher. So I hadn't done it for 16 years. And then they asked me to do it, which was great because I got the opportunity to meet Lexi Peter when I was up here. And then after getting more students under my keep, I was able to recruit them to the green team. So now we're a growing club, and Lexi Peter is a former student of mine. So thank you guys for coming.
I believe next here, Dr. Sherry Thomas, we'll let you go ahead with the next introduction, please.
Well, good evening. On May 1st, we had a very serious situation occur at Lewis and Clark, something that every morning I pray about is that everybody's safe every day. But on May 1st, I got a call from Julie Martin, one of our nurses, that we had a very serious situation, and still very upsetting for me, but we had a student who had a serious seizure. Of course, we called 911, we followed all of those things, and his heart rate, everything was very low. It was when I saw Julie's face and when I saw Julie and Vicky's face, I knew it was serious, and they absolutely did everything that had to be done until the paramedics got there. In fact, the paramedics kind of pulled me over to the side and were like, you have no idea. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. So I wrote a difference maker for Julie Martin, my nurse, and Vicky, for basically saving a young man's life. They didn't want to come tonight. It's very still upsetting for the parents. He's still having some situations, and she asked me to say thank you, and she goes, really, there's not words to say thank you for that. After that, there were further medical situations that occurred that if Julie and Vicky hadn't done the right thing, it could have even been worse. So I want to tell them thank you, and the district, thank you for having such wonderful people in my building that know what to do in a crisis and didn't have to wait for someone to get there. While we did get people there very quickly, they literally kept this young man alive. So they remained calm, they kept him stable. Julie and I made eye contact as their mama at school. I knew something was wrong, and I was trying to keep myself under control, and those ladies were awesome. So I would like to make sure that we as a district thank Julie Martin and Vicki Weberg basically for keeping one of my babies at Lewis and Clark safe, happy, and okay. So if you guys would come up. I really thank God for these ladies. So do I. Yeah. So do I. You guys want to say anything? No. Okay.
We have here a certificate, I believe, here.
Oh.
Sorry. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Yeah.
Appreciate it. And then Dr. Schindorf, any of our faculty council folks?
Okay, at the beginning of this school year, Dr. Lithkin made the decision to reconvene what he calls his JCPS Faculty Council, and this is a council that is represented by individuals from every building that we have, and they accept the challenge, responsibility of being faithful on a monthly basis to come in and to do a couple of things. One is to learn about what is going on, current events going on in the district. Dr. Lithcom also shares with the committee, because he meets with them the week just before the board meeting. He shares with them some of the upcoming agenda items. And the second part, probably more important, is an opportunity for these individuals to share information about what's going on at the building level. Any questions that they have, concerns, feedback, input, and Dr. Lithcom spends time with them listening, and also Mrs. Hatfield spends a lot of time taking notes, and we do a lot of follow-up work with the input and the information that comes from this group. And so we are thankful that they are willing to accept this, and so I'd like to name off the individuals that from each site. They not all of them were able to be here tonight because they're very busy. It's the end of the year, and and they have activities going on, but I do want to recognize them, so they are. And when I'm done here, I'll ask those that are here to come up front. From Bel Air, it's Tori Hamilton and Cheryl Long. Callaway is Kendra Windsor and Brianna Nicholson. Cedar Hill is Jennifer McBain. East is Ruthie Eichels and Lisa Props. Gordon is Sandy Ward. Lawson, Beth Reinsch. Monroe Heights is Paula Britton. North is Jamie Henry. Pioneer Trail, Amy Springer. South, Ashley Bremerkamp. West, Charlotte Buthard. Southwest, Katie Eppema. TJ is Jacob Baker. Lewis and Clark, Haley Rethman. Simonson, Emily Wilhelm. Jefferson City High School, Kristen Thurman and Charlie Ledgerwood. Nichols Career Center is Shelley Gooden and Brian Wolf. And JCAC, Brian Center and Catherine Disler. So if any of those individuals are here, if you will come on up. Come on.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Now you say, I'm in the middle and I can, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Next item of business, your consent agenda items is listed there, A through F. We look for approval at this time.
So moved.
Thank you, Lorelei.
Second.
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Good, consent agenda is approved, and I need to abstain. Do you have that? Thank you. Moving on to recognition. Dr. Lincoln.
I believe Ms. Bridget Frank has an introduction for us.
Thank you. So I'd like to welcome and personally thank Megan Murphy from the American Heart Association for being here tonight. Megan has come to speak to us about the CPR in Schools training program. This program has provided Jeff City Public Schools with a CPR Schools kit, which basically has all the essentials that we need in order to facilitate the training of our students on how to do CPR. So this program has been a partnership with the American Heart Association, Jeff City Public Schools, and Capital Region Medical Center. So I'd like to ask Megan to come forward to explain this program a little further, the benefits that it's provided to us as a district, and how we're working to be stronger together to create the next generation of lifesavers. So.
Thanks for having me today. I actually have some facts about CPR that are pretty interesting and can kind of make you stop and think a second. Sadly, 70% of Americans may feel helpless to act during a cardiac emergency because either they do not know how to administer CPR or their training has significantly lapsed. With the help of great local and national partners, the American Heart Association trains 17.8 million people in CPR annually to equip Americans with the skills they need to perform bystander CPR. Despite our best efforts, only 46% of cardiac arrest victims receive CPR from a bystander during a cardiac event. We know we can improve this statistic, and one way that we are doing that locally is through our partnership with Capital Region Medical Center as our hands-only CPR sponsor. This partnership helps us to continue to ensure the people in our community will feel confident to perform this life-saving skill. And thanks to Missouri for making it a requirement for graduate from high school, 60,000 students per year in the state will be learning CPR. So Lindsay Human with Capital Region Medical Center is here to help present the CPR kit, which...
So I'm not going to drag the kit up here.
Okay.
It is on wheels, which is nice.
But this was a sponsorship as a community-based hospital. This was an important sponsorship for us to allow the kids to learn what they can. We already heard stories just 5 minutes ago about how important it is to have people who can help others, especially in the instance of a medical emergency. So we're proud to do this. We're proud to work with the American Heart Association and definitely proud to work with Jefferson Public Schools. So
Okay.
there's your kit.
And it is on wheels, so it
Okay.
can make it easier to transport.
Well, thank you guys for coming, and I thank you for what you do, and we do believe in being stronger together, and that just exemplified here this evening. So thank you again for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Moving on to reports and communications.
Okay. On our learning partnership and stewardship, start on learning. We had 592 graduates on a nice sunshine day yesterday at the high school, and just it's always awesome, kind of the leading up to and the graduates, and we were just so excited for those and their families to be able to celebrate a graduation yesterday. Dr. Schindorf is going to talk a little bit about our reading, as that is our number one goal. It's on a board here that 100% of our students are reading at or above grade level, and so he'll give us an update on that. We are going to look at blowing up reading here in the next few days, so I'll just kind of leave it at that. And we have some rock stars in our school district that are doing some great things. Recognize that have had entire classrooms of all of their students meeting their growth targets, and they are difference makers. So little appetizer before there'll be more information later on with that. Our partnership, student artwork. So we have behind us here from Lewis and Clark, Dr. Thomas. We told her thank you for their art teachers, and then on the back part there, that is from North Elementary. And so it's always great to be able to showcase some of our students' work here in our classroom. That rotates. Stephanie, Lori, they make that happen and help coordinate that. So thanks to them. I really have nothing to do with that other than telling them thank you. So thank you to those folks for making that happen. And it's always great to showcase our students there. Gave a boundary line update. I want to give an update here. We basically, with our boundary lines, we've touched on here that with the location of Capital City High School being within Cedar Hill's boundary lines, which will be primarily feeding Cedar Hill belongs in Lewis and Clark's boundary line, and Lewis and Clark will be feeding Jeff City High School. Thomas Jefferson will be feeding Capital City High School. So we want to visit our boundary lines. We had a boundary line committee. We had our first meeting on the 4th of December. We have had actually 16 official meetings, 13 unofficial through Coffees with Larry on the radio, updates at board meetings, Lions Club, Rotaries, Cosmos, different clubs and organizations as far as presenting and giving folks an opportunity to gather and myself to gather input with that. Numerous emails, face-to-face phone calls, etc. We basically met here on the 7th of May with the committee. Our committee consists of folks from our 11 elementary schools, and with that we started out with different scenarios. Those were narrowed down to 5, and from that meeting, the next step, we have 3 scenarios that we're examining, and the next step, we're going to have a community-wide town hall meeting, one located at Thomas Jefferson, one located at Lewis and Clark, and one located, Amy had a great idea, with at the Miller Center. We met there actually with our committee, and it was just a neat venue there. So we're going to have 3 community-wide town halls. Those dates have not been set, but that is the next step, to then ask folks to poke holes, or as we vet, or as we examine the pros and cons of these scenarios. So these 3 scenarios, they'll be updated soon on our district website. All the scenarios are on the website. Committee members are on the website. All the information is on the website. And I've shown that in here. When you go to our base page, jcschools.us, on the left hand, about halfway down, it says Boundary Committees. You can click on that. But it will be updated, and we'll have scenarios A, B, and C. Scenarios A, B, and C. A will be what has been the current scenario 14, and in that scenario, basically, and we won't bring it up, and I'm just giving you an update. And all 3 scenarios has of A, B, and C, Thomas Jefferson. It's one of our middle schools, by the way. All 3 scenarios has Thorpe Gordon not splitting. Right now, currently, if you attend Thorpe Gordon, some of the students would then go to Thomas Jefferson, some of the students would go to Lewis and Clark. One of the goals of the committee was to not split any of our elementary schools. We would like our students to stay with their peers throughout their educational experience, and in all 3 of the scenarios, it has Thorpe Gordon, all of their students attending Lewis and Clark. We had a parent meeting with Thorpe Gordon and met with their parents to convey that if that scenario was chosen. The next scenario is scenario B. Let me back up. So back on scenario A, there's a portion of the northern portion of Cedar Hill boundary lines. This again is scenario 14 currently, but will be scenario A that will move from Cedar Hill to South Elementary. We will have a grace period 5 to 6 year grace period. If you've started at Cedar Hill, you will stay at Cedar Hill and allow you to finish where you started. There will be a time frame on that to kind of the transition for that as a part of that scenario A, which is our current 14. Scenario B is basically the same lines, other than we will split Cedar Hill boundary, Cedar Hill. So with scenario 14, portion of that would be a part of South and be a part of Cedar Hill, we will not split. We will split those students, and those students would continue to attend Cedar Hill or South, but then once they're in the Cedar Hill lines, once they become middle school age, then they will attend Thomas Jefferson. Thorpe Gordon is not splitting, they are all attending LC on that scenario. Scenario C is basically the current scenario 10, which is basically leaving the boundary lines as is, other than Thorpe Gordon not being split like it currently is. So those are 3 scenarios that have kind of been honed down. The next step is those 3 community-wide town hall meetings, and then from there, we anticipate bringing that as an agenda item, which will give our community an opportunity to address during an open forum, to address you guys as a board through those scenarios as we weigh the pros and cons, and as we've literally looked at about 83 scenarios of what would work, what would not, through all the different parts of it. So that's just kind of an update that it's narrowed down to 3. Again, the goal is to have a recommendation to you, a final recommendation by the August board meeting, which would give 1 year notice or advance, so folks can plan accordingly to go into effect starting the fall of 19. But we want to do it right, and we hope that if it needs to be September, so be it. Don't rush the process. I've said be quick, but don't hurry, as John Wooden would say. So we want to make sure we do it right, but let's not dilly-dally along. So that's kind of where we are. Any questions that for me, or as an update on this time for the boundary, where we are with that? Okay. The last thing that I have is just to say thank you. That was the last thing I had. So that's all I've got on my report.
Very good. Thanks for that.
Yep.
Okay. Chief of Learning update, Dr. Schindorf.
Thank you. I want to start with giving you an update from a reading competition that we've had going on. So we've had a competition from January to the end of the school year, and we just wrapped that up a week ago. And that competition had 2 pieces to it. We were competing from the all elementary schools and middle schools in Simonson with a competition for two ways to win. One was looking at the classrooms that had the highest percentage of growth, kids meeting their growth targets. So regardless of whether you are below grade level, on grade level, or above grade level, I-Ready assigns all students a growth target, meaning here's where you are today, and by the end of the school year, here's your target, here's what you should get to if you're going to stay on track. So everybody gets a target. What we looked at is, across the district by grade level, which sections had the highest percentage of kids who got to that growth target, because that is the goal. The second piece that we looked at then is the sections across the district for who had the greatest increase in the percent of students who are proficient or advanced, meaning you're on grade level or above grade level. So we had 2 competitions going on. And so we went out last Friday, the prize patrol, if you will, went out and we visited 46 classrooms that had a total of 1,380 students. It was a long, but it was very fun. It was a great day. So I just wanted to real quick tell you who those were. So in the category of growth, these are the sections that had the most kids meeting growth target. Our winners were in kindergarten, it was Cedar Hill. In first grade, North is first grade. Pioneer Trails had the highest in second grade. Bel Air got 3rd grade. East got 4th grade. And Bel Air got 5th grade. So Bel Air had 2 in the area of growth. And then in the area of having proficient or advanced, meaning on grade level or above, in kindergarten, we went to Morrow Heights. In first grade, we went to Thorpe Gordon. In second grade, we went to East. In 3rd grade, we stayed at East. In 4th grade, we stayed at East. In 5th grade, we went to West. And so we are incredibly excited about all of those, but East, we are very, very excited about. East needed this, and they worked very hard and very pleased with that work. We also had the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grades compete with each other, so all 6th grade against all 7th, all 8th, regardless of the school. And so in that competition, it was the 6th grades at TJ and Lewis and Clark won both of those competitions, growth and percentage. So 6th grade rocked it this time. So we are very pleased with that. We had a great time for Prize Patrol. I think we looked more like clowns than we did, Prize Patrol, but we had a good time, and I wish some of you could have been there. We had, kids were screaming and excited, teachers were crying, probably because the kids were screaming and excited, but no, we had a great time, and so looking forward to what next year brings. So I had a good time with Prize Patrol. So along that line with our literacy initiative, we have been continuing to work hard with our literacy cadre and our framework, which you've seen before. It's up on the screen. This is the framework. And I told you the last time we met that we were going to begin to work with our cadre on those 6 buttons, what falls behind those. And so we met last week with the cadre. I'm also excited that our cadre increased by 4 members. Mr. Verslois has been working with the middle school staff, and so 4 of our middle school staff have come on board and are part of our cadre now, and we're excited about it because we believe that the work we're doing for the purpose of consistency needs to carry over for when our kids transfer from 5th grade to 6th grade. We need to have some consistency of practice, and so we're excited about that. I'll remind you that the purpose of that framework our goal is to ensure consistency with our curriculum across this district, to ensure consistency with our resources that our teachers have access to ensure that we have consistency in professional development that we provide to all of our staff. And we believe that if we can do those 3 things, we then will have fidelity of implementation for a quality literacy program. And so that's really the heart of this piece. The last week the cadre did meet. We did begin the work of unpacking those 6 buttons. We have that work done, and it is a multi-page document. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens behind those. So one of the things that we need to do is we want to narrow it down so that it is meaningful to the people who are using this document. Because if it's just saturated with a bunch of stuff, people won't take the time to use it. So we're going to work on how do we focus all of the stuff that happens under those buttons. What are the most important pieces and the priorities, so that when we publish this, the folks will know exactly what it is. So we looked at who are the people that need work under those buttons, what is the timeline, what are the resources that are needed, where is it needed. So there's a lot of pieces behind those. The next step then what we'll do is take, because I was just a cadre, we'll take that work and we'll put it in front of principals and instructional coaches, some other teachers, to let them look at it and make sure that the information we have there is right, and then we'll narrow it down and get that piece ready for publication. So any questions about that work that we did there? So next big step. We know when you look at the district, school, community, and parents, we know what the district and school needs to do. That's the work we've been working on. We have 2 really big pieces on there, community and parents, that we have to get figured out. And what the group has talked about is that we believe we have a very supportive community who wants to help. And I think that if we can articulate a very clear plan for what we're going to do and what we need to get it accomplished, we have a lot of community groups, organizations, businesses that are willing to help. We believe that, and so we hope as we get this put together, we can begin talking to different groups and businesses and organizations to say, here's our plan, here's what we want to get accomplished, how can we partner with you? So I'm talking about things like the public library, the Boys and Girls Club, the Y, Scholastic, different places that we can partner with and say, here's what we want to get accomplished. How do you want to come on board? What would it look like for you if you helped us out? And so we're anxious about that part. That is the next step for us. And then the conversations about the parents is we spend a lot of time saying, let's just get parents to, how can we get parents to come to school? How can we get them to come to school? And when they come to school, what we'll tell them is, we want you to read with your child. Well, we still want that, but we had a meeting here a couple weeks ago with a group of parents who came to speak to us about how we invest our title money in supporting literacy and helping their kids. And these are parents who have children in programming now. And here's the kinds of things that they said is that we know that our child is a struggling reader. We know that. The problem is we don't know how to help. I mean, we're not educated. We don't know. When you guys talk about a levelized system, we don't know what that means. When we go to the public library, we don't know what the right book is to pull, levelized. We don't know what that means. And the public librarian may not know, and so they can't help us. And we don't know what it means when you say good questioning or pausing or using text features. We don't know what that means. And if we did, we would help. And so we're going to change our focus from parents from just getting you at school to coming up with a way that we can help educate and provide support and resources for what we really do at school to help support. We have a great program called Behind the Glass where parents come in and they observe and watch behind the glass so the kids can't see folks there on the other side of the glass. It's one way. And they get to watch a certified teacher teaching children to read, and they get to listen to the types of questions. They get to watch how they take the text and use the pictures and how they pause. And they get to watch that kind of stuff, and what they say when they're done is, I had no idea. And that's definitely not what we do. We're just like, get a book and read a book, because that's all we know to do. So we're going to change our focus, and we're going to work on an education piece. So we're going to be excited to bring that piece to you. Questions about that?
So you've been doing that program?
The Behind the Glass, yes, it's part of the Reading Recovery program. So children who are in Reading Recovery go behind the
Right.
glass, and parents are invited in.
So how are people in the public supposed to know about it?
So if you're a parent of one of those children, you're invited. And in fact, when I asked, so what percentage of those parents come in that are invited? It was around 85% of the parents who are invited to come in. It's not a requirement,
Right.
but you're told, here's what it means. If you'd like to see what we do with your child, you can come in and sit behind the glass. Your child won't know you're there. You won't be a distraction. And they come into the room and they sit behind the glass. It's a one-way mirror, and they watch the teacher. So they're invited in.
Sure.
But we only, right now, the only invitations have been to parents who have a child in Reading Recovery. But we have the capacity to do that with any parent, with any child, with any
That's cool.
situation.
And
So
approximately how many, Brian, do we, as far, I know next year we're looking at expanding
So-
that as far as more, but approximately how many are we talking about here?
we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of another 400 students having access to reading support. We have somewhere right now this year, I think we were able to touch just under 300, and we're looking closer to about 600 to 700 kids who are going to have access to a reading person. And so in those situations, any of those students, if we believe that a parent's willing and able to come in and to do that kind of training and work, that's what we're talking about. We have the capacity to do this.
Is that K through 5, K through 8? What?
The primary focus for all of our reading specialists is going to be K2, because we believe if we get them early,
Okay.
we get them on track. But those support services, we have reading specialists that could support 3-5. We also have reading specialists in the middle school. But we have a very intense, and the majority of our resources, we are investing in K2.
And that's what, the program that you're talking about, the Reading Recovery, that's where it's been.
Reading Recovery is primarily a first grade in terms of the one-on-one piece. Now, our Reading Recovery teachers pull small groups from second grade as well, but primarily they work with first graders, because that's typically where you teach a child to read.
That's really good.
Is Reading Recovery a program that will continue next year?
We are not having Reading Recovery. What we have done is redesign the use of our reading specialists. So we've had 12 Reading Recovery teachers. And in Reading Recovery, they work one-on-one. It's a very good program. It is very
Awesome.
specific. But it's also one-on-one. It's incredibly expensive and very limiting.
Okay.
And so what we're going to do is we have increased our reading teachers to 22. So we had 12 at the elementary, and we had a couple at the middle school. We're going to increase to a total of 22 reading specialists, and we're going to utilize them in small group instruction, primarily small group instruction. So where right now, this year, our Reading Recovery teacher primarily one-to-one, and they also pulled small group. In this scenario, we're going to primarily be small group. Now, there may be situations where you need a third tier of intervention. So a child sat in the regular classroom, didn't do well. They got pulled out into small group, about 5 kids with a reading specialist for a while, and they didn't perform well. They may warrant a smaller tier 3 intervention, which then could be a much smaller group and potentially one-on-one. But that's a decision that'll be made at the building level.
So we still will have one-on-one if it's needed.
If the building uses the resources in that capacity, it's not a district initiative to say that we have a program that says it's one-to-one, but if a building makes that decision to use them as one-to-one, they have that capacity.
So the principal makes the decision.
Well, the principal and the reading staff, classroom
Okay.
teachers, yes.
Gotcha, thank you.
So
It's
this is,
such a large number
Yes.
of students, so we felt the Reading Recovery does awesome.
Yes.
And we recognize that, but how can we touch more students? We just can't go out and hire 60 reading teachers to all work one-on-one. There's a need for that. So trying to be as efficient, as good as stewards And if it does come to where that need, still be able to provide that, but can they in groups of 5, let's say, in a smaller group setting, work through that?
So that's really cool. My question is that for the public to know about this, what's your plan to let the public know that we're doing this so they can see that we're doing projects like this? So the media might pick it up and do some positive stuff about Chesapeake Public Schools.
So that's been a starting point. I will say this. Last week, Philip came in and he spent probably a good hour with the instructional team, the coordinators, myself, Ms. Ross, Mr. Sloyce. And to his credit, he didn't just come in to get a story. He sat, he asked a lot of tough questions, he took a lot of notes. And not only that, he then that Sunday, he did a really nice piece about our reading program, but he came back and said he wanted to know more. And so he a few days later, went into our model classrooms and spent an afternoon in our model classrooms to understand what does this literacy piece really look like. And so hats off to him. He's been working with us and doing good stories. We need to do more because we need to get the message out. But I also believe that when we have the community piece and the parent piece nailed down, Dr. Lithcom has Mrs. Hatfield working on a document right now to try to frame, as we do this work, how do we get it into a message that we can send out to the public and to the community? So we're working on that.
That'd be really good.
And I think we ought to overload Philip's email inbox and the editor's inbox anytime we see those stories with thank yous, because I mean, I think, yeah, we do need to acknowledge and recognize and thank them when they run those stories, because they are significant in terms of helping us get that message out.
Yeah.
He's not always mean.
No,
He's not.
I do have one question about the number. You mentioned that you'd added 4 staff to the cadre as far as staff, district personnel and staff. What is the size? How many representatives or how many people are on that?
Oh, the cadre, right now there's 18
18
members.
All right.
And the reason it's 18 right now is those 18 members earlier in the school year committed to a few days of some pretty intense professional development at a national level, and they said that with that training, I'd be willing to be a person who will help move this initiative forward, because I believe in the direction we're headed. I believe in the pieces that we have, that we can get better at it. And so that's how the 18 got originated, but that group needs to continue to grow.
Okay.
That's really good.
We will have Philip teaching reading within a year.
Before the summer's out.
Okay, along that also, I do want to mention that we also last month sent out a message to our K-12, a message out to K-12 teachers, informing them our message of our all-in approach of close reading, that the expectation come August is that in this district, the strategy of close reading is going to be used in all grade levels, in all content across this district, because we believe it is the method that we can all do, regardless of content, that's going to help support teachers in processing difficult text. And so that message went out last month, and currently we have our building principals, coaches, our PDC reps, working on designing, developing their SIP plans and their PD plans to embed work around close reading. So we're excited about that piece as part of our district-wide initiative for next year. Looking forward to it.
Brian, quick question for you, just to follow up. As you work with the different community pieces, the different organizations that you mentioned, and thinking about the kids that need some of the most intensive assistance to try to get them caught up to where they need to be, and thinking about what's usually referred to as the summer slump, do you view some of these different constituent pieces as helping with that? When the kids aren't here every day, Monday through Friday, getting that type of assistance?
Absolutely. Historically, a lot of times when we look at our businesses, business partners and groups, it's typically about, what kind of money or what kind of resource can they give us. We believe in the human resource side. We believe that it's people. So even if we have groups or organizations that say, help me to better understand what it looks like to support a child in literacy, and I can invest time. I can be there with time to help do that. And so we're going to be probably more interested in that type of thing than we are, nothing against, we'll take books. We want books. I almost said, and not just books, but we want books. But we need the human capital. We need people, because quite honestly, that is what makes a difference. That is getting adults with kids who care. So that's going to be a very big piece of our community.
Good. Well, thank you. Great report. This is very exciting. I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't recall a time, at least in the recent past, of the district being as forward-leaning and really engaging on just trying to attack an issue that we know is out there and that it affects all of our kids. And I mean, if you can't read, you can't be successful in math, you can't do social studies. I mean, it's pervasive. So this is really exciting information, and it's just, I think it's great, to echo some of the comments about the fact that we're really engaging on this, and you guys look like you've got some things coming together. So very good stuff.
Okay, a couple of things outside of literacy, if I can. One, there has been some changes in legislature, some requirements for professional development, and so it's things we've been working on. One of those is a requirement of staff development in the area of suicide prevention. It is an annual training, so we've been working on designing that and what that's going to look like. We are going to embed that in our new teacher training this year until we can get a little better system in place for next year, where we do, hopefully we'll be able to do something connected with Shelby's work that she does with the onboarding and the compliance training, but we do have a plan for this year in our new teacher training. Another piece is the dyslexia screening requirements. So there's legislation out there that all staff on an annual basis are required to have some training on screening for dyslexia. It's a K-12 piece as well. So we're currently working with DESE. DESE hopefully is going to be producing some videos that we can use as, again, part of our staff training. So that's in the works, but just want you to know about it. It's about a 2-hour training annually. And then this one is not new legislation, but I just want to give you an update on the active shooter training. We do have a schedule in place. All schools have signed up, and they do have a scheduled date starting in the fall for their active shooter training to take place on site at each school with the staff. So those have been scheduled and ready to go. Worked with the police department and was able to accommodate our dates, and so we believe we have that scheduled and ready to go.
I know that we've been invited to participate in some of those trainings, but can we be involved in like the suicide prevention, those continuing education? That would be great.
Yeah, if those are trainer ones where a trainer comes in
Okay.
and does them, yes. Otherwise, there'll be videos that we can share with
Okay.
you in terms of the staff training. So we're working on, it's better for us if we can do it through the compliance training and do videos, because you don't have to take 2 hours of a PD time, but we're working on that.
Okay, thank you.
Then just give you an update, a little later this evening, I'm going to be asking that you approve the science curriculum. I'll remind you that part of that was the science resource that you approved last month. Anytime you purchase a resource, the company wants to do what they call a jumpstart training, which means give us a little bit of time with your staff so we can show them all the pieces and how they work together and when to use them. So we're going to do that with science. Last year we did it with math, and what we heard from the staff was they didn't like the timing. We waited until the August when they came back, those 3 days, and we did it, and we heard that just was bad timing. So we tried this time with science to offer a voluntary one next week. We offered it voluntary and said, if you can come next week and get the training, then when come August 14th, when it's the mandatory one, we will leave you alone. And so we opened up that window and asked folks to sign up. There are 244 teachers across the district that need the training because they're going to have hands-on resource. Of the 244, 200 of them signed up for next week. So I think they sent a very clear message.
That's good.
So the 44 that weren't able to, will then attend in August the 14th.
Cool.
And then lastly, just an update on summer school. Historically, we've had to hire numerous outside staff members to teach summer school. And one of our goals this year was to try to increase our internal staff first. And so very pleased that we had just under 300 applicants this year. Remind you that we went out and did a huge initiative to change our summer school program, what it looks like, how it's designed, and how we support them. And it appears to work. We have just over 300 applicants. 45 of those were 612, 95 were K-5, and then we had about 150 reading teachers and special ed teachers and librarians. So very excited to have that many internal applicants, and I think that means we're going to need only a handful of external, and that was one of our goals. Another goal was, my goal was to try to hit 3,000 students in summer school. I was reporting that we had 2,600 last year. Unfortunately, Mr. Jason Hoffman, the numbers guy, started playing with that number and came back and told me that the actual number was closer to 29. So my lofty goal of 3,000 all of a sudden seemed horrible. So just when I started to feel bad, we pulled the numbers, and as of today, we don't have 29, we don't have 3,000. As of today, we have 3,530 students.
Wow, good job. That's good.
So very excited.
That's outstanding.
we have more middle school, we have more high school, and one of the pieces we're excited about is we're doing that fifth grade transition program. So our fifth graders this year are going to go to the middle school and learn what middle school life is about. And we've had 272 of our kids, fifth graders, sign up, and last year we only had 150. So we're excited about the numbers and looking forward to it. So.
Good.
Man, Philip's gonna have to run a special edition just to get all this good news in.
I'll get it in.
Thank you, Brian.
Good report.
He can do it. Could you turn this radio off behind me?
I don't think it's just Philip's job.
I didn't notice.
While she's doing that, one point of clarification before Jason comes up here. When I touched on the boundary lines, one thing through the boundary line committee they asked that we would do is if the differences in the poverty levels between the two schools, one thing we said throughout the entire campaign was that we did not want to have the haves and the have-nots. Lewis and Clark and Thomas Jefferson, for the most part, have held very similar. This year, it's 4% higher, I believe, at Lewis and Clark than Thomas Jefferson. 2 years ago, it was flipped. The poverty rate was 4% higher at Thomas Jefferson than Lewis and Clark. So it has held true for the most part over the 25 years since '93. They asked that when we have two high schools, Capital City and Jefferson City High School, if that spread becomes double digit, 10% or more for 2 consecutive years, would we visit boundary lines? And I said, I would hope we would be doing that anyway, but that was something they felt was very important, and I would agree 100%, because we want to make sure that all students have the same opportunity regardless of where you go to school here. So I just wanted to kind of forgot to add that, so an important point. Jason. Thank you.
So we thought it was a good time tonight to give you an update on the construction budget. We've got the design team and we have NAPLS here also. So they're going to be talking about the design and construction. So we'll give you an update on the budget as well. Starting right now. On the revenue side, we know that the voters approved authorization to issue $130 million in bonds. We did that in July of last year and in March, so we have issued those $130 million worth of bonds. As we sell those bonds, we set the interest rate and the demand on our bonds, and then where we priced the interest rate, we actually received a bond premium. So not only did we receive $85 million in July, we received an additional $6.7 million of bond premium. Those are bond proceeds that come to us. And that's the amount we got after we paid for all the issuance costs. So that's the amount above the $85 million. Then we've got almost $4 million more in March of 2018. And then we're going to earn interest on this money throughout. We have all that money now. We're not spending it. We haven't spent it all, so we're going to earn interest. So we're expecting we'll earn about $2.5 million of interest through the completion of the project. So I'm going to walk you through the history of the expenses. So early on, before the election, we had barely had the design team on board. They came on board in January. Nabholz wasn't on board yet. We had a very rough budget, and so going through the items, they we had some contingencies. We had a design contingency, owner's contingency. So we've had about $113 million of construction cost. We had about $7 million for architects and engineers. We didn't have anything allocated for miscellaneous at this time, and we had $10 million for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So we were right at $130 million, but we knew we were going to receive more than that. We didn't know exactly how much, but I've just plugged in the $143 million. So we knew we had some money to spare. So then Nabholz gets on board, design team's a little further along, and we found out very quickly that what we had budgeted for Jefferson City High School was not enough. The renovations were more, and so that was a big change from that time.
Could I interject? Excuse me. Not enough to hit it out of the park and do it right, and to where it's to become a premier school district.
Sure.
A little caveat there.
The design team went in and they met with our staff. They had a lot of meetings, and so to make sure that, you know, we said all along that Jeff City High School was going to be a state-of-the-art. It was going to be as good as Capital City High School, and I think we're going to be able to deliver on that. And so in order to do that, that's where the that change came. So
May I also interject? I mean, we've got a lot of input right from the teachers.
Absolutely.
And tried to accommodate their requests and their needs in this, adding a couple of more classrooms here at Nichols and those kind of things too, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
some of this came from response from our staff, responding to needs of our staff. Is that correct?
Right, and so the original number was developed in 2014 without really any input from staff. It was just, here's an area that needs some light and medium and heavy renovations. And so after they went in and met with the staff, that's exactly what drove that.
But we are stronger together.
We're trying to be responsive to what our teachers are telling us they need.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And to deliver on the statement that we made so many times during the campaign committee, made so many times, that haves and have-nots is not an option.
Right. So we're a little further along in the design process, so we reduced some contingencies there, getting firmer numbers on all of the architect, engineer, all of those professional services. Miscellaneous, as you'll see, is asbestos abatement, our OSIP, off-site utilities. There are a bunch of things that are kind of piling up in this area, and you'll see this line will grow. FF&E, we've reduced that a little bit here, so we're up to 133. So then January of this year, not really a lot of change up here. So pretty similar. We're just kind of whittling away a little bit. But that was the next budget update that we got. So there's not a lot of change there. Then we got a big change in March, and the number got a little bit bigger here. This number for Capital City High School got a little bit larger. Took a little bit off of our owner contingency, miscellaneous as we get into asbestos and all other things. So we got up to almost 140 million, but knowing that we still had 143, so we're still have money left in the bank. And so our latest update that we got, and we've Navholz and their team spent a ton of time fine-tuning this over and over again so that it would be just the way we wanted it, and hats off to them and the design team. They've all done a great job. So we're now at construction cost of 121. I'll point out that we still have about $5 million of contingencies in that 121. So that's not really earmarked for anything, and as we go along, if we find things that we need, especially as we're doing renovations at the high school, at Jeff City High School, that may be needed, but that may be money that just goes back in and isn't needed at all. The miscellaneous line has grown substantially, but we're still at 141 is our budget as of right now. So we still we're $2 million under the amount of money that we have available, and then point out still the $5 million that we have in contingency. So I feel very, very good about where we're at and the product that we're going to be able to deliver that you're going to see here in a few minutes. Any questions?
That big jump in miscellaneous, is that asbestos abatement?
No, that was where we
Starting
finally added the OSIP into it. So we're the owner-controlled insurance program, and so that's been a number that we've known for a while. It just hadn't made its way into the budget yet. So that was the big difference.
How's that going?
It's good. We've had one small claim so far, 4 stitches.
Good.
No.
That's why you don't need to be there.
So, reason for the savings that we dropped down a little bit at Capital City from March to April?
Just fine tuning the design. Yeah, there were a lot of conversations that were going on about practice fields and what's included, what's not included. The excavation, we got, Michael, did we receive bids in that time frame too? Didn't we receive some bids that maybe came in under?
So we had bids in the February timeframe for the excavation, and once we went into March, it was the month outside utilities as well as construction packages.
Okay.
So steel, concrete, and all of our precast are on.
So some of those just came in.
All of our bids for that big package did come in under budget.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Next item, future dates. Won't go through those, but just take a quick second to peruse those. Things that are coming up on the calendar. This time of year is always relatively busy. You see that, just as a quick reminder, we do have two meetings. We've got a regularly scheduled meeting in June for regular business, and then later on in the month, we've got a special meeting to review and approve the annual operating budget. So make sure that you have that on your calendar. Next item of business, old business, design and construction update. Mr. Kerry Gemfer.
Thank you for having us tonight. Kerry Gamper with the Architects Alliance. Dr. Linthicum kind of stumped us with tonight's meeting. He asked us to give you an update, but he said give you a quick update. So I'm not sure how we can do that with all the people involved in that, but we'll try to get through it pretty quickly. And then we're lucky that tomorrow is a very busy day. We have investigations in the tunnels going on. We have a bid opening for Area G at the high school, and we have construction documents due for the Capital City High School. So since all that's going on tomorrow, we have a lot of people in town. We're lucky to have them with us tonight. Just to remind you, we have 3 architectural firms working on it, the Architects Alliance, DLR Group, and ACI. So Craig is here from DLR Group. He's going to give you a presentation on the design development report that is, literally I saw it about the final draft about an hour ago. Doug Loveland is here with ACI Bolin. They are leading the effort due tomorrow for the construction documents for Capital City High School. And then Michael Feemster and what's that guy's name? Mitchell and Dale. They're leading the effort tomorrow to receive bids on Area G. So a lot going on, and this is a bit peculiar because we have construction started. Some of you may have noticed out on 179 that they've taken some trees down and moved a little bit of dirt and rock. At the same time, the design team is still working on design development and construction documents. So due to the schedule, the scale of the project, and the speed, we've been working with Nabels, the design team has, to accelerate work on site to get the, so what you're seeing out there is prepping for the building pad. At the same time, the design team is still designing the building. We're probably not going to move footings or the perimeter of the building now that they're doing that, but there is still a ton of design work. So it's not like we finish all our work and then the contractor bids and starts. They're bidding and constructing, and we're still designing at both sites, frankly. Other groups, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection. The engineering on that is being done by DLR's in-house engineering group. So a lot of people engaged in that. Site work, you have locally Central Missouri Professional Services, Engineering Surveys and Services, Gradell Engineering, and Bartlett and West are all local firms involved in both design work on the site and testing some of the installations that are going in now. And then we have, just last Friday, we had again, still in design, we had the food service consultant in to present to Bob Weber and his staff and some of the food service folks about the kitchen layout and detailed cut sheets. So there's a whole pile of that if you'd like to get into the weeds on kitchen equipment and things like that. And that is Santee, John Kennedy led that effort last Friday with district staff. So there is a lot going on, and I can tell you that if we're busy, that means that the district staff is extremely busy too, because they're taking our calls at all hours of the day to get questions answered and how they want to do this or that, or who do we ask this question to get the answer. So I want to thank Dr. Linthicum and Jason and Bob for getting us to the right person to get the information quickly as we move through.
We maybe call once or twice as well.
What's that?
I said, we maybe call you guys once or twice as well.
Yes, you do. You have my cell number. Like I said, what you see out on site right now, and again, if there's any questions regarding design, construction documents, another thing, or construction, we have every office represented here tonight. Another thing we've been doing is working with the City of Jefferson on code review. That's going very well. There's a lot of ways to interpret the code. This is a big project. It's two very distinct projects, a very large new construction and a very intensive renovation to existing buildings. So we've been working with the city staff, not only for permitting, but they will also be heavily involved in the phasing when we take down one area of the building for renovation and leave the rest open. There's a lot of code considerations in keeping the kids separate from construction. So we have some draft phasing plans in the presentation tonight, and those, I can tell you, those are a constant work in progress as the design evolves. What else can I tell you? You see the work happening on Highway 179. Both sites will be worked on this summer, so as soon as the kids are out, abatement crews and demolition crews come in. They'll be working on asbestos. They'll also be working on what we call Area G, which is towards Lafayette Street. That classroom tower will undergo demolition, and believe it or not, at the end of the summer, the top floor of that will be finished and will serve as swing classrooms along with 6 trailers out in the old tennis court parking lot for another 10 classrooms. That will be swing space for staging and taking down different parts of the building at different times. So that work on the top floor will be done at the end of the summer, right guys? That's what the schedule says. And then it will continue on the second and first floor and little theater and the library. That's all part of Area G. That will continue past when kids return, but the top floor will be done and they'll have access to that for classrooms. So keeping that occupied and keeping it code compliant and all that is been a lot of work between Nabholz, the design team, and the City of Jefferson. We have finished some areas of construction documents like Area G. Tomorrow, the Capital City High School construction documents come in, but at the same time, we're working on design development for other parts of the building. And so what you're going to see tonight is what we call design development. It's sort of a handoff, get sign off from the owner for major design decisions, and then go into construction documents and then competitive bidding after that. So you're going to see some site plans, floor plans, and some interior renderings that are frankly hot off the presses. What else can I tell you? Oh, there's been a lot of discussion about security and access control to the buildings. It's obviously a very big concern with buildings now. So both buildings have gone through extensive meetings with faculty about how to control the building, control for code egress, but also visitors at rush hour, visitors during the middle of the day, or visitors on the weekend. The appropriate meetings have been had. I won't get into a lot about the details of security, but the building is as secure as we can make it without it being a prison. Sight lines have been studied, and then the ability to lock off certain sections of the building in the event of a bad situation. Kitchen equipment. You're also going to see at the Capital City High School, you'll see the work that's happening now with athletic fields, and then what that looks like in the future as that continues to be developed. As you remember, in the election, it was called practice fields, and so we'll show you what's being installed with this project. But a lot of work has been put in to make sure that we're not doing something silly for future development of that site for finished fields. So you'll see both those plans in there today, but the first one will be what's included in the budget numbers and the construction schedule for this project.
So for clarification, Philip, make sure that that is for possibility down the road versus.
We knew that those requests would eventually come. And so we wanted to make sure that the practice fields are put in now, but when they turn to competition fields and you have larger crowds there, that the infrastructure's in place or can be put in place, and we don't have to redo any work that's being done now, if that makes sense. So,
Thank you.
okay. Great. Oh, start, okay.
One thing I might, before you get started here, the goal, I think, is safe to say in my terms, Capital City High School and Jeff City High School trying to hit it out of the park while still being good stewards of tax dollars. Okay, that is the goal, as we raise the bar, keeping that in mind. So when you think of this, that's what I want you to think about, trying to hit it out of the park, but still being good stewards of patrons' money, and that is a fine, delicate line. Go ahead.
It is, and obviously, we're going to have a new Capital City High School, and we have intensive renovations.
New Jefferson City High School.
That's right, the new Jefferson City High School. You know, we're looking at, I can't remember the exact date they opened, but we're looking at the existing high school drawings. You know, we're buried in those to dovetail new and old. Those are from 1962. So people talk about this be a once in a generation project. It's, for some of it's once in a lifetime project. The 1962 building, and then Nichols Career Center documents are dated 1974. So everything gets renovated to one degree or another. Some walls come out, some new get built, and then there's obviously the Commons, Connector, Media Center, and Auxiliary Gym, which is brand new construction. So, yeah, it's a very neat project, and it is once in a lifetime. Am I in control of flipping the screen? That's my left click.
Both of them are, somebody's gonna doze off already.
Okay, did you do that? Thank you. Okay, the existing Jefferson City High School, just to kind of orient you, the red outline is Jefferson City High School, Nichols Career Center. Here's Thorpe Gordon up here. Here's Atkins Stadium, and here's a field without the link on it. So this is a little bit older photograph. And then this is the acreage on Highway 179 and Mission Drive. There's the roundabout. Hospitals over here. Creek Trail and Frog Hollow are down here. So, go ahead, Jason. Again, an aerial view. I think we're going to start with the current high school. This is Fleming Fieldhouse. There's the courtyard right there. Here's Little Theater and the library. Ironically enough, this was where the administration was when the school was built. So this stair, this goat trail right here, was going up to the main entrance to the school. And later, the administration was moved over to where it is on J Drive now. And again, that was 1962, 1974. Nichols Career Center was built. Next. Again, Plan North is up on the page. So this is Jefferson City High School, Nichols Career Center, Thorpe Gordon. The white is new construction, so you have a connector and a media center to get it central between the two buildings and be right by the entrance. You have a connector reaching out to Union Street and to the new drop-off to the north, and the auxiliary gym and some new locker rooms here, some additional classroom space, as well as outdoor dining facilities adjacent to the cafeteria. And then this tiny little white dot right here is an elevator tower, because currently the basement of this wing is not ADA compliant. And so that tower will allow you to go from basement up to the third level of the Area G towards Lafayette Street. Next. And please interrupt me if you have any questions. We can also take questions at the end. And for everybody on the design team in Nabholz, you're very good about telling me when I forget something or if I'm wrong, so please speak up. I'm trying to keep it in the 5 minutes that Dr. Linthicum asked me to. This,
That was 20 minutes ago.
Closer to 30, I think.
This is to show, I'm not going to go through the details of the different colors, but this is to show how complicated the phasing plan is at Jefferson City High School. Each one of these colors is a different phase. So the yellow is area G. That will be literally the day the kids walk out, the contractor's demolition and abatement will walk in.
Oh, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
It's off the wall question, but with the track thing going on, how's that gonna, with you guys doing that and us hosting state track back-to-back weekends, is that gonna affect it at all?
Yep.
With the
Yep.
parking?
Yep.
So do you have that under
But
control?
we have all the link parking now that we didn't have before, so you see.
I understand that, but I'm just asking the question, Lorelei. If they
Yeah.
have
It's
it.
going to be challenging.
The activities department is all over that.
I figured that, Gary. I was just asking the question.
No, it's a good question.
And
More exciting for us has been the conversation with the fire marshal about being able to maintain your ability to hold graduation where you're accustomed to holding it, and negotiating the aspects that he would want from us to allow you to continue to hold graduation the way you're used to. And that's been one of those problem-solving conversations we've had a couple of times now.
Thank you.
From area G, I won't, like I said, I'm not going to go through every phase, but from area G, when that's completed next fall, they will jump over to the first floor of Nichols Career Center and work on that. And then after that phase, they will jump over to the green, which is, if you're familiar with the building, the science labs, that whole tower will be the next phase. The top floor of the yellow and these trailers will serve, temporary trailers will serve as the transition classrooms during all of this phasing. Next.
Carrie, I apologize for being the new
Sorry,
kid on
go
the
ahead.
team, but what's the estimated completion date for this project?
It's end of January of 2020.
2020,
Yeah,
okay.
so we start this May, it goes consecutively all the way around. Now, what's very colorful up there is because the remodel stuff has to be phased in order to meet school
Sure.
logistics and all that.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
At the same time as Capital City High School.
Yeah, they're due to finish on, at the same time. The early phase would be moving a couple of grades into Capital City High School, but the ironic thing is this project is basically half the budget of the new high school, and it's got exponentially more phases, and it's more complicated
Right.
because the kids are occupying the site.
Wow.
And we're going to get into phasing and the site plans of Capital City, but first, Craig, can you walk through these?
Yeah. So we're going to get into the renderings now. So just to let you know, there are, for DD, for what we call design development, there are stacks of drawings and specifications that complement everything you see here. These are just the pretty pictures that show you the three-dimensional aspect of the building. So this view is taken from the east side. So if you look at this, this will be the same for all of the drawings. There's a little key plan down here so you can make out Nichols and the high school, the connection in between. This little red arrow, the point is where you'd be standing, and then the cone is your view cone. So that you'll see that appear on all of these slides. So we're standing at the east side, looking back toward the connecting link. We have Nichols Career Center over here on the right, and over on the left you have the high school and the existing admin area. So a series of, because of the elevation change, series of ramps that connect you along with the stairs, and a learning stair incorporated into that with some additional landscaping and buffering, kind of protecting the view and creating entry sequence that's pleasant on the east side. You also notice this red element here is what we call the J Tower, and so it actually penetrates the building. You'll see it in a number of different slides, and it's really just kind of the central part of the school, but it's also kind of a wayfinding. So you always can get your bearings based on where the J Tower is. And then from the west side then, looking in between the two buildings, we have the new gymnasium back behind on the right, the new auxiliary gymnasium in the foreground on the right. And then this is that connecting spine that has The vertical circulation, both with stairs that go up and an elevator back here adjacent to the restrooms. And then the connecting link, this goes over to the existing Nichols building here. We have the media center on the ground floor and a social commons tech center on the upper floor of the addition. Okay. So just inside the west side, then looking back toward the east, if you'd have been dropped off at Union Street, you come up the stairs into the lobby, you have the media center immediately over to your left. You have entrance to gymnasiums over to your right, and again behind this wood element here, ticket sales and concessions, stairs that lead you upstairs to the mezzanine area that has the social commons and the tech bar. And then to the right, then past this wood element, you would go into the existing admin area and into the cafeteria. Okay. And then turning a little further left then, looking into the media center, again, you see the J Tower over here to the right with the media center and all their elements and breakout spaces along that line of spaces. And then upstairs, we have the social commons here to the right and the tech center here. Exposed painted structure, acoustical deck to help control any noise in that space. Some additional baffles happening at the tech center. Carpeting, polished concrete floors in the new area of the school. Okay. And then upstairs, directly above that, now you're looking back out to the west. That overviews the track and football field. And then you have the social commons area, the tech center here. There's another social seating area right at the top of the stairs, just outside of the upstairs counseling area. And then toward the back here is that second story connection to the Nichols Center. Back into the cafeteria. The land ceiling's been removed. We've removed the asbestos from the barrel vaults, exposed those. We brought in new finishes, new materials, some acoustical panels on the vertical faces of the vault structure. Also are incorporating lighting above those to reflect off the ceiling. So those barrel vaults basically become the lighting fixture themselves to distribute light throughout the space. The daylight is opened back up. We're bringing in natural daylight again from the north and south. This view is looking toward the north. We have over here, these two openings on the right-hand side of the image are where the admin area is. We're actually, because we're distributing the admin through the school now, we're actually be able to recapture some of that space and expand the dining room into that area. Just to the left here through this opening, you have the connection back to the new link and to the Nichols Center. That throat, that pinch point gets widened there, so we have twice the amount of space to pass through that point in passing periods. Just creating a much more vibrant space and bringing back some of the history that is part of the school. This image is taken in the notorious Area G. It's the top floor, the first floor that will be finished. This line right here where I'm dragging the cursor is where the corridor runs east and west. And so we're actually looking from one collaborative area across the hallway to another collaborative area that you can make out in the distance. You can see across the courtyard to where the commons area is over there. So you get strong connection between the classrooms, both the collaborative areas, and kind of ease up that flow of circulation through the corridor. Okay. This classroom is the lower level of Nichols. It's actually part of the high school program. And it's just another one of those collaboration spaces that we have within each of the learning communities. And so this is just showing how that opens up, connects to the corridor, and creates another spill out space for students to work on projects or in teams together outside of the classroom and other areas for a little more privacy. And then this is at the northwest corner of Nichols on the lower level. The entry off the very northwest corner is over here to the right in the back. This is the existing corridor. The culinary center is behind the wood wall here, and this is the area across from that. It's a swing space. It's the common space, the social commons, the gathering space for all of Nichols. It also serves as the dining room for any of the culinary functions that they have at the Nichols Career Center. And this image is in the new auxiliary gymnasium, the bleachers over to the left. A suggestion of graphics, we're just identifying walls. It would be graphics. These aren't the graphics you'll end up with, but just a visual representation of that. And then this looks into, there's a corridor in between the existing gymnasium and the auxiliary gymnasium that serves as circulation. We're also able to bring daylight in there, and so we'll have impact-resistant glass in these windows to allow natural light to spill into the auxiliary gymnasium, but also maintain the ability to maintain that as the storm shelter. And then this view is back into the current competition gymnasium. Another suggestion of graphics in that space. Asbestos is removed. The ceiling in the middle of the space is removed, exposing the structure again, bringing in new lighting and breathing new HVAC, just breathing new life into that space. And then we'll go back to, you want to start us off on Cap City?
Craig?
Yes.
Do you guys have any questions on the current?
On the current.
JC High?
Did I hear you correctly, that the dining space will be larger than it is now?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So you also have some of the area to the north, and then you also have the spill out space that's above the lower level of classrooms in the courtyard. That becomes outdoor dining area for
Something we
decent
hear
days.
a lot about, so good, thank you.
Another thing on the, what Craig was saying, every learning center has some sort of collaboration space, and that's in the Capital City High School design, but that's something we heard very loudly from faculty and staff was they're so boxed in, there's nowhere to break out and have kids doing team projects and things like that. So, 80% of the school is classrooms, but what we're showing you here is collaboration spaces, because if we showed, all the classrooms, they start to kind of look the same. So we're showing what's happening in each one of those learning communities, whether it's Nichols Career Center, collaboration space, there was nowhere for Nichols Career Center students to meet, whether it's a breakout space in the high school. These are sort of the community spaces. And then going down the hallway, their classes. One thing that was complained too about was just the longness of the hallways and the fact that they were kind of dreary. And so that's much different in Capital City High School. We took some of those ideas back over to Jefferson City High School and introduced them there.
I do have one question before we get to Capital City. So, and maybe this is for Frank, but have we talked about specific things that we're going to do related to security with those trailers and the movement of students back and forth between the main building and the trailers? And as we always talk about the, limited or, restricted access to the building, and yet having kids moving back and forth, are we addressing specifically security issues related to that?
Yeah, we've had several meetings regarding that. The staff on site during the movement of camera placement down there, as well as staff on site while the learning environment is going on.
Okay.
There are currently protocols associated with the trailers that are
correct
adjacent to Nichols Career Center along Jackson Street. So I assume that a lot of those protocols will go over. I mentioned though that the documents are still being worked on. We're literally still working on the hookups and connections for the trailers that you saw in the yellow.
Yeah.
Those documents are still being produced, and they'll be to the construction folks in August.
Okay.
So with the trailers, how many parking spots will we be losing for this next
I
It's
could
gonna
get you
be
the
a-
number, but it's probably, I don't know, Bob, how many parking spots are you supposed to build? I was gonna say 60
Do we
maximum.
have any,
Well, they,
The contingency plan was for the lane, and we worked with the Jeff City Parks and Rec, and got a hold of them, because during the day, they don't have much going on to allow us to use their 75, 80 spaces that they have.
because believe it or not, I think that's gonna be one of the first questions that's gonna be asked from,
sure, it's,
So I just-
we've had that question come up in the coffees with Larry, down in Millisor. You know, there's no question, it's going to be a pain for 2 years over there when construction's going on, just because the kids are occupying the site and the contractors are going to be there, so it will be a pain. The other thing is the pinch point of, as I understand it, the parking comes in the spring semester, not necessarily early, but you know.
once the sophomores start getting their license, yeah.
Any other questions on what you've seen so far? Okay. This is just to orient you, Highway 179, Mission Drive. If you drive up to this point today, you can see this looks a lot different today.
A little different.
This is the site plan and what's being included in the documents right now. Obviously, the high school, 3 major parking areas here, here, and here. This is the new street joint venture between City of Jefferson and County of Cole and the school district. I don't know if that's named yet. This would be school district-owned drive, have fire access around the building. There would be a football field turfed and a track, and then future, there would be grass here, as I understand it. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, the project includes grass?
Don't
Turf.
think so. I think
Turf.
that's turf.
Turf, sorry. Turf here, but in the future, support facilities, concession stands, and for large crowds would be seated in a structure built in here. There are 4 tennis courts down in the valley with 4 more planned right here, a drive off of Creek Trail, a baseball field, softball combination, and then that expands in the future. Why don't we just show them the next slide? So this is what is being discussed with the district and athletic staff as far as what this could be
Down
in
the road.
future. Down the road, but it's, again, if you go backwards one, this dovetails into that. So if someone says, sorry if you go back one, if someone says, why are these things so far apart from each other? It's so that the next slide can happen. That makes sense.
Are there dollar amounts associated with this wish list yet?
I don't think we don't have on the, like, for bleachers and utilities in between.
Yeah, this
I
is a
don't
whole
think so.
building.
Yeah.
Right here. We've thrown some rough numbers around, but I don't think it's not enough that Nabholz can provide us pricing.
Gotcha.
yet. Not enough detail.
And I think where you're at right now is, like what you mentioned, is just making sure that we're doing things that are modular, so to speak. So that way, in the future, if this is the direction that we want to go, then we can start dropping things in.
Yeah, you'll notice I said a baseball, softball combination. Well, here's a future softball. Here's 4 more tennis courts. Here's a building between the 2 fields. Yes, sir.
Go back one. I think it's important throughout the campaign, we said we would provide practice facilities, still be good stewards. We would use Atkins Stadium and Licklider Track, would share, as they are now with Elias, we'd be sharing, or has been prior to this year. That's what we said, and still use Vivian and 63 and the 179 Sockers, but to ensure that it would mesh down the road.
And keep in mind, we're dealing with, from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill is 110 feet fall from here to here. So we're dealing with incredible topography.
Easily understood, that small front parking lot is the front door of the building. To get from that to the back of the building, where that drive cuts back, that's already a 16 to 18 foot drop. To get from that drive to the surface of the practice fields is about another 25 or so foot drop. And then to get from those practice fields down to the tennis and and ball complex is about another 50, 60 feet. And actually, a recent request that the DLR's landscape group has been able to work in with Central Missouri Professional Services is a, I would say not a wheelchair accessible, but a path that gets you down that slope so that we don't have to be in a vehicle to link kids at the high school to those outer practice fields. We can link them by foot, since not all kids participating in athletics are old enough to drive or have access to a vehicle. So that's one that came up late from Gary's staff, was that we've got to be able to get kids from the high school to these practice fields without relying on vehicles.
Without driving them.
So we've been working on a switchback path that is an interim step while we're practicing all over this complex, and it's spread out as it is.
You have it on next slide.
That's some
You have a
good
built-in,
cardio.
yeah, they also have a built-in training facilities as they
That's
go,
some great-
as they go up and down.
Great cardio.
From the school to the, yeah.
The reason this is not a direct shot sidewalk from here to here is because of the topography, trying to keep it a reasonable slope. Also, from the front of the building, or the entry side of the building, that will appear to be a one-story building. When you go around to this drive here, the building will be 3 stories tall, just because of the topography. It's just like Cole County Jail. On High Street, it's 1 story. On McCarty Street, it's 40 feet below High Street. Same thing's happening here.
Let's not spend too much time on that slide. 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
I mean, it's-
Just to let you know, remember you saw the color-coded plan on Jeff City High School with multiple phases because it's an occupied site? This has 2 phases, and I don't know if we have the line exactly right. There's been several diagrams here, but phase 1 is basically admin and academics and commons. Phase 2 would be the right-hand side, the biggest piece of that being the gymnasium and auxiliary gym.
This will be ready for kids in
August of 19.
Okay.
But we recognize that the athletics in the fall, your volleyball, we're gonna
That's
have to
correct,
work-
the gym will not be done.
we will have to work through with Thomas Jefferson, JC High. I mean, that is a challenge we recognize, but they will be ready for kids the fall of 19, but that's just part of it. Have to
Freshmen and
educate
sophomores,
folks.
right?
Correct, freshmen and sophomores.
Right. It helps that you guys are thinking through those things now.
And even that diagram that was just on the page, it's still a work in progress, working with Nat Holtz and the design team. Take the next one quick. Can you take these?
So this is, again, to orient you, the footprint and the cone pointing toward the entrance. So this is on the east side, then looking back to the west. This is that main connecting spine that goes all the way through the school. The 1-story elements that Carrie talked about, admin over here to the right, cafeteria, dining area here, and then some of the performing arts that have a little bit higher volume over on the left. Same type of treatment on the exterior with a different color brick, but the long horizontal overhangs to kind of tie in together with what we're doing at the current high school. Drop off here in the front, and that small parking lot area just beyond that. And then this is the lower level of the atrium space. So really all your classrooms, your media center, all those spaces are to the right. Classrooms are over to the left here. This is the learning stair that connects through the pedestrian stair. This is the entry, the front entry that we just talked about, just behind here. Cafeteria and performing arts go down to the right. And then some of your specialty classrooms down here, some of your art classrooms as well. And so this just give you an idea of the amount of daylight that's coming in from the clerestory above to really fill these internal spaces with light. And then this is on the middle level, just off to the entry is back here over to the left. But this is the tech bar, similar to the one we showed you at Jeff City High School. So similar type of arrangement there. Areas for both collaboration and working, but also a place to have your computer updated and work done. Then this would be at the middle level as well, and looking at the media center behind there. So, and then that starts to spill out into the atrium space as well. Again, this is close to the exterior wall and bringing daylight deep into that space. Okay. And then this is within the classroom wing and some of those internal spaces. Again, smaller atriums, clerestories bringing light down inside the space, the lines of sight across that at all levels, and then collaboration spaces down below, in this case, spilling out from some of the adjacent classrooms. And then this is on the middle level, looking back toward the west there, just some of those connecting links that come across the atrium space. This is actually just outside of the science rooms here. So some of those spaces, we have these little lookouts then that people can pull off outside of the circulation path. Okay. And then this slide is at the new gymnasium, looking toward the toward the north and east. So back here is the connection to the auxiliary gymnasium. Ghosted out in the back here is where the daylight is coming through, is looking out to the east, then across the fields below. So bringing daylight, into those spaces. Another suggestion of where the graphics might occur in that space. Still working on those. It's opening soon. Any questions on Capital City?
Craig, I'm in the audience, I might be thinking, the colors are still subject to change.
Yes.
Correct?
A lot of green.
Correct. There was way too much green up there. So what we talked about is the commons, the walk-in, what you see when you walk in, we want school colors. But when you start getting down the hallways for the classrooms, then we could differentiate with some more color.
At both of them.
Yeah, at both of them.
At both of them.
Yeah.
We were trying to compare similar views to each school of these slides, but and we've had some conversations. I know, we know the mascot and stuff is still being worked on. At the entryway to Jefferson City High School, you see a lot of red. At the entryway to Capital City High School, you see a lot of blue. You just didn't have a view here, and obviously the gyms are red and blue. The graphics on the wall, we know that there's a committee that's still working on that sort of stuff, so we can intentionally not put that in there until they're done with their work.
Yeah, the graphics we showed in the gymnasium are just placeholders for what is to be developed.
Michael? Absolutely. How it's actually going to get done?
My really quick synopsis is really quick. So again, Michael Feemster with Naples Construction. Thanks for having me back. Ken and Lindsay, nice to see you guys, meet you officially.
Thanks for the hat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone has a hard hat now with sticker and name on it, right? Okay, so you can come out anytime you want, as long as Scott teaches me how to play golf. So currently, just going back to procurement a little bit to date, for some of the new folks as well, about 19.5 million has been procured with the 3 guaranteed maximum price amendments to our contract. Those are all the packages we talked about earlier. So it's the clearing and grubbing at the beginning, and then we had site excavation, site utilities, steel, as well as concrete, precast, and waterproofing. I'm missing any on Capital City. So as Carrie and Craig mentioned, big day this week, and I think the design team is probably going to break open a bottle of champagne we're about to have the remaining packages to Capital City go out the door to the market.
So that way for the next 4 weeks until we hit June 19th, that'll be the final bid day, should be anyway, for Capital City High School. That means from a procurement standpoint, we've bought everything. So that will be a big day. That means everything is in the works from procuring, from ordering, getting that stuff on site and coordinated. So seeing all those trees still on site on that graphic image, it has definitely changed since that. Again, you guys are always welcome to come to site to take a look. It has drastically changed. We actually, at the end of April, have completed a building pad for Capital City. The whole thing is ready to go. So since that end of April date, we've had concrete footings start going in. We had procurement of the concrete package, so there's large footings that have gone in the ground, as well as also a wall construction. So that area between where we were talking about admin, as well as those classrooms, there's a big, as Craig was saying, it appears as a 1-story. There's a big dividing wall. This is part of your storm shelter, 16 feet. That has been constructed, is currently in process. So when you come by, you'll see footings, building pad done, and that wall has been formed. So a lot of structural elements going on right now. In the background of all this, we've also procured steel. So the design team, props to all of them for helping us with coordination. Remember what Carrie said at the beginning of this, the pre-construction and construction are greatly overlapped right now. And since that December timeframe, we've been working hand in hand of working on site at the same time of working in the office to do design coordination and budgeting. So the steel for a certain specific area on Capital City has been procured. It should arrive early June. So once we see the building in June start going vertical, that's when a lot of excitement's going to happen in the community. This thing is starting to really take shape. And then of course the other elements that are happening in the background is just coordination with shop drawings, submittals, all that good stuff. So again, we've got all the remaining packages for Capital City going out this week to the market. So that way we have a bid day in the month of June 19th. So we're rocking and rolling with the help of our subcontractor forces as well as design team and district. So are there any questions on construction, what's happening, taking shape on Capital City? So this is where I'm going to bet a breakfast that Nabholz is more excited for the last day of school on the current high school than the kids and the faculty. We are ready to jump on this one. Very excited to get started. So as Carrie mentioned, tomorrow we have our first bid day, public bid opening for what's called Area G. You notice next to the little theater, it is a 4-story tower block, essentially about 60,000 square foot, where we are starting from very top and going to very bottom to do all that remodel. This is all remodel work this summer. So just the top floor, that 4th level, I know there's an argument of floor levels, but that top floor will be done at the end of this summer. So that way it can be used in addition to the trailers as swing spaces for the kids as we start our phasing plan. So that's bid day. The remaining bid packages are due in August, which we're still coordinating, and that's what Craig was showing you, some of the design development going on. A good note today is we've actually started demolition in the little theater. So some of those chairs have been removed, as well as asbestos abatement is about to start in conjunction with the district, and all of our temporary fence and signage is coming right when your kids are gone. It's all going to be put up. So you'll start seeing some changes soon in the public, and the asbestos abatement is going to be ongoing, and then our construction procurement starts first day that those bids come in. After tomorrow, Wednesday, Dale Brown and I are going to be working on procurement for contract placement very heavily to make sure that this summer schedule is hit. So that is the update for the current high school. We are still working hand in hand with the district from a phasing standpoint, as well as the design team phasing logistics. At the end of the day, your students and faculty safety is our #1 priority. So as soon as that's finalized, I assume that will be publicized and given to all the parents, faculty, et cetera, so we can do that coordination. So, are there any questions on current high school? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Carrie?
When Michael uses the word procurement, tying back to Jason's chart, basically that's bidding. So all these numbers we've been looking at, they're estimates, are now turning into bids. So that's what procurement does for those numbers up there. That's why they're in flux, because some of them are estimates with contingency
Thank you.
A lot of work going on.
Lots of
Yeah. On to new business, items A through D. Mr. Weber, what is a busy time of year for contract issues?
Yes, it is. Good evening. I believe starting on page 38 is 4 contracts that I have for you tonight that we would request approval. The first being contract with Summit Mechanical for new hot water heaters at Lewis and Clark Middle School.
Move to approve.
Second.
I read it.
Thank you, Lorelei. Thank you, Scott. You have any questions? Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Very good. Contract approved.
Thank you. The next contract is with K.A. Berenson Construction. It is for, his contract actually is for some work done both at Thomas Jefferson and Lawson. We're putting in a dedicated left turn lane as you come out of the driveway of both schools. Presently, people will try to turn left and it backs all the traffic up, so we're widening out the driveway. Lawson, we're going to put in some additional parking and a driveway that kind of connects to the playground to help people circulate on and when they pick up their children, get some of that traffic off of
Now they do
Country
it.
Club.
That's my partner's
Thank you.
slide. I'm
Thanks
gonna
for
be
now.
around.
Motion to approve, even though it's too late.
I second.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Lori. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Good. Contracts approved. Item C.
Thomas Jefferson.
The next contract's with Versalois Construction Company. It is, we're gonna widen out kind of a drive at south to go on the playground. And we're gonna take cars in on the playground and circle back and help alleviate a lot of that traffic back up over at south, so.
You'll
Anybody
bypass
got-
I got nothing on south.
And you'll bypass the graveyard, right?
We'll bypass the graveyard.
Don't disrupt anybody.
Also in that contract would be an overlayment of the first teacher parking lot there too. It's getting pretty rough
I had
shape.
grandkids there.
I moved to approve.
Thank you, Lori.
Oh, you gotta go quick.
Second.
Thank you.
Get on.
Shannon.
Whiz.
Thank you. Additional discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Very good. Contracts approved. Last one.
The last agreement is with Architects Alliance. However, the work will be done by another consultant, Buxton, Cubic and Dodd. Is for interior design, job specifications for the furniture and some of the fixtures. As you've seen earlier in all the slides, all the media center furniture and collaboration furniture and classroom furniture. They will be doing the specifications and color coordination and the bidding process for both schools.
I move to approve.
Thank you, Ken.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lindsay. Additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Very good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
You're late, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
You're late.
Sorry. Item
I
E,
got another chance. but-
Privet Healthcare contract.
Okay, Robert Desikia, one of our activities directors, is looking into a better, more efficient way and more of a 21st century way to keep all of our athletic documents, physicals, medical information, that it's accessible right there on the sideline, either app for the phone or what have you. I'll real quickly read through some of the bulleted items that talks about Privet. It stores medical information for 7 years in a highly secure HIPAA-compliant system that meets the strenuous security and privacy requirements of major NCAA collegiate athletic programs such as Alabama, Florida, Stanford, and many others. So I think it could probably work for us. Through use of the Privet Sideline app or mobile enhanced website, Privet provides coaches with instant access to an athlete's emergency medical information It also allows medics, athletic trainers, or coaches to file detailed injury reports. In addition to collecting required medical forms, Privet can also host any forms required for completion by parents and athletes, such as drug testing consent forms, athletic handbook verification forms, transportation permission forms, etc. We simplify the form collection process. Privet is endorsed by MSHA and are currently working with numerous high schools in Missouri. Hickman is in their first year of it. Robert came to us from Columbia Public Schools, and he said they're loving every bit of it. So that is Privet. Jason, I think the cost, is it $2,000?
First year at 6, year 2 or 3, just 3 years, 1 year agreement, 2 annual renewals.
You like it?
Is it? I am not real familiar with it, but I remember the days of photocopying physicals and getting the forms and carrying them with me. This is just expedites and makes it more accessible in case of an emergency.
Is that a district cost that you're talking about, or by?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Is this a cloud, is this a cloud
Yes.
solution?
Yes, cloud.
So it's not on premise? Okay.
Everything's in the cloud.
No, not everything.
Well, I have a motion to approve then.
Yeah.
Second.
Thank you. Scott, Lori,
Judge Ken.
additional conversation, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Royce.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Dr. Schindorf, 2018-19 science curriculum.
Yes. You have in front of you the K through biology, K-12 science curriculum. It's work that's been working on it for the past 2 years. A group of about 50 teachers have put their heart and soul into this. So for you to say no, crush them. So I would recommend that you approve the curriculum as written. I will say this, that if I were to bring you the current curriculum and show you what it looks like, I could do it instead of this packet. It would probably be it'd be less than a dozen pages, because our curriculum is basically, here are your standards, here's the resource if you have one, here's what students should be able to do when you're done, good luck. I mean, that's kind of, so this is a very comprehensive and thorough curriculum, and very pleased with the work that the teachers have done with it.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Lori.
Second.
Thank you, Lori. Additional discussion? Good. Happy to call for the vote on this one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The good curriculum's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
I couldn't pass biology, by the way.
No other business before us. We move on to motion of the evening. Lorraine will do the honors.
Motion to suspend open to enter into closed meeting by roll call vote pursuant to chapter 610-021 of the meeting of the revised statutes of Missouri, sections 13 individually identifiable personnel records and 14 records which are protected from disclosure by law.
Good. Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lindsay. Roll call vote, please.
Lindsay? Yes.
Yes.
Lorelei? Rick?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And Scott?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're good. You down here? Okay.
Yep.
All right, we'll adjourn for about 10 minutes. We'll be back here.